time, we are going to get started. Again, we are so happy that you are here joining us on a Sunday morning where I'm living up in the Bay Area. Beautiful Sunday morning. So we are going to hopefully provide you guys with some amazing information and leave you feeling hopefully not completely depressed about the trends in CS and engineering, but also a little peek of hope with how to support your children in next steps, especially when focusing on computer science and engineering. Thrilled to have this team with us today. Even getting someone like Chris Sharp and Ray Prado in the same room together, be it a virtual room, is spectacular in and of itself. So guys, unless you have Mark Zuckerberg as your neighbor is not right. These two guys are, and actually Mark Zuckerberg is sort of right down the street. But in this case, college admissions with computer science and engineering, we could not have gotten a better cast of people presenting and also who are specialists on our team. So we are just thrilled. Literally, Ray and Chris, every time you open your mouth, I learn something. And I have been a counselor for 14 years. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to all the parents and students. I hope we have a ton of students on this webinar today, and I hope that you come away with some really important information, specifically with computer science and engineering. Today, I'm going to introduce to you, like I've said, our two very specialized experts. They both work on the 11 and 12 team, specialized in computer science and engineering. And let's just take a second to realize, what other place would you have access to these specialists and experts? Again, you couldn't if you tried. A lot of money couldn't even get you to be able to hear these two experts in one room, virtual room together. So I'm going to start with Chris Sharp. He has had 16 years in education. Many of those years were at Carnegie Mellon, reviewing computer science and engineering applications in the admissions office. He currently works at an elite private high school, not going to name it because lots of famous people go there. And his passion for what he does is apparent as soon as he opens his mouth. You will understand how passionate he is about not just computer science and college admissions, but students and preparing them for that lifelong journey of computer science. We're thrilled to have you, Chris. And Ray Prado spent 12 years in admissions at Caltech, which is currently ranked number 4 in the US for engineering. 12 years in the admissions office, reviewing engineering applications, meeting with that admissions team. And currently he is at an elite private high school. He has spent now 22 years in education. Again, Ray, when you speak, the amount of information that these families and students on here are going to gain from your information is unmatched by anywhere else. So if you YouTube any of these questions that we're going to hear and posed, or trends that we're discussing, there is no absolute truth except for what these guys are saying. So wherever you're getting your information, these guys are our experts, and really we're privileged and honored to have you guys, not just today sharing this information, but also on our 11 and 12 college admissions team. So Chris, I'm going to pass it over to you. And if you are parents or students, please get out your notes and get ready for a very informational webinar.
Thank you so much, Cherie. We are appreciative of all the professionals that we work with at UC Easy, supported, informed, and it's always nice to have always a great back and forth, especially in this landscape. So the title today for our presentation is So You Think You Can STEM. It's not saying that you can't. It's saying that what you're going to hear today is going to be a conversation, and that's why it says an open conversation. It's not meant to feel like you're being lectured at. It's more or less, as a parent or a student, feeling like you're being well informed. You're getting good information, reliable information from trusted sources who love what they do. I reside in the Silicon Beach region of Los Angeles, directly across from YouTube, across the street from IMAX and Google. As you can see, even where I reside, I'm always around the field of computer science. In addition, I'm a Pittsburgher, born and raised on the East Coast, where I did work for Carnegie Mellon. So I got my master's at Carnegie Mellon. But the nice thing about being an Angelino now, before I was an Angelino, I was actually in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and East Bay. And I recruited territories, both on Ivy League campuses, large public universities. I've traveled to hundreds of schools. I've seen buildings, I've seen programs, I've seen things from the groundwork up. And it's amazing to live in this space because you always see what's new and what's coming around the corner. Again, we're going to go over trends, academic preparation, highlights what we're seeing, insight from our perspective, and then the best part, how to empower your student in this process, because they are enough. I promise you that. So Ray and I would love to tag team these slides and talk about these, because many times these two areas intersect because of things like computer engineering. But often when you apply to schools, when you get to that point, you'll find that these two areas often live on different parts of a college campus as well. So Ray, if you don't mind, I guess I could jump into the first bullet, and feel free to add in any additional information. When you think of trends, as a parent, you're going to hear a lot of things. In my day-to-day, Monday through Friday, including weekends, Chris, I heard that ... Chris, is it true that? And then you hear all this jargon, all this vocabulary that might seem foreign to you. And that's where we come in to really help you understand the vocabulary. One of those words is impacted. Impacted majors. What that basically means is space. Universities have popular majors because of rankings. There are so many rankings at the department level, the US News World Report, Times Higher Ed, QS World, Forbes, Money Magazine, Huffington Post. I mean, the list goes on and on. The impacted majors, because of those lists, students apply to maybe a handful of majors at a larger amount at each campus. So what happens is there's an influx for certain areas on a campus, and there's still a limited amount of seats. So what that means is a greater amount of competition. And what does that mean? It's what everybody's talking about right now, and which colleges love to do, marketing. We have this percentage of an acceptance rate this year. That's marketing. That's numbers that are simply division. That's all that is. So what we try to do is help inform our students what an impacted major is on each one of these campuses, given your student's interest. So yes, they are limited, but it does not mean they're restricted, because if the student is fit for the major, we really help a student understand what they're getting into. So there's no surprises. Again, being very honest. An honest conversation prevents a difficult conversation. Ray, anything to add on impacted majors from your standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is very important. Especially now that, the reason we're talking about computer science and engineering, it's great that more students are interested in these two areas, but that doesn't mean that, colleges and universities have more space, so a lot of it has to do with, the competition, as Chris was saying, is that there's more interest, but colleges and universities still do not have the classroom size, the laboratory size in order to, I know they would love to admit more students, but right now they cannot do that.
The next bullet point is institutional priorities. This is also what you're going to hear that usually is used in tandem. Institutional priorities basically means colleges and universities have an idea going into each year, what kind of class, what kind of community they want to build. And that could be made up of the different majors that are on the campus. That could be how a student identifies in the application process. It could be a geographic diversity, a socioeconomic diversity. It could be diversity on many levels. So institutional priorities affect admission. It affects admission goals. It affects how many students a school could admit. Just to give you an idea, University of Texas at Austin, hook 'em horns. So UT, if you are a Texas resident, the state of Texas is obligated and has to hold 90% of its students, of its open seats, to residents of Texas. So that leaves 10% for the enrolling freshman class to be international and out of state. So in Texas, for instance, not only are the numbers like that, you're up against even more competition because you're not a resident of Texas. To give you an idea, North Carolina, 82% of their incoming freshmen are from North Carolina. 18% are from out of state, and 18% are international. It does not include transfer numbers, but it gives you a great idea of, wow, when you understand that number and that ratio, how does that affect building a college list? How does that affect knowing what competition really looks like in popular majors like CS and engineering? What are my chances? I always get that from juniors. It has nothing to do with chances. Again, these are numbers, but these are important things that we work with to really guide the conversation and not dominate the conversation.
Well, yeah, I think the other thing that's very important, and I also, people are all here. Well, how come? Because they had a 4.0, they had all these AP classes. Well, the institutional priorities of the school is not just academic. They're looking for musicians, they're looking for artists, they're looking for people that bring in a talent, that's not necessarily academic. Like when I was at Caltech, we only could we had entering class was about 250 students, so that was challenging in itself. So what was the institution looking for? Well, out of state students, kids from outside of California sometimes, or, kids who had different kinds of talents, or bring in foreign languages. We could only admit 10% of that 250 what could be from out of the country. So it was tough. So there were things that the school needs and wants in order to create a dynamic student body.
Ray, do you want to continue to talk about 4+1, 3+2?
Sure. So sometimes there are programs. For example, Caltech had one. It was the 3+2 program. And so it offered the student who wanted to also focus on the liberal arts. So we had partnerships with liberal arts colleges around the country. And so what a student could do, they could get a bachelor's degree from one school, and they would spend 3 years there, and then they would come to Caltech and spend the other 2 years on our campus and get 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Bachelor of Science degree. Same thing, 4+1, so it depends on where you start and then where you will finish. Usually you'll start at the liberal arts college and then finish at the engineering or computer science major school. We didn't get a lot of applicants. It requires an additional year, but some students really liked it because they really had that interest in English or in humanities or in music. But they were also very, very interested in engineering or computer science or biology. So some schools are able to offer for that particular student that kind of those 2 degrees coming together.
And the 4+1, how that works basically is parents see this as return on investment in keeping your student at the same campus. So when they're actually a sophomore, they're thinking about this as they're continuing into their junior year. In their junior year, they're actually in the second semester, most likely, or first semester for some schools, applying for the master's program at that university. Now, if admitted into that master's program, part of your student's senior year classes will be master's classes and undergraduate classes. So they will start working for their master's work, but they do have to give up their open electives, which means your student loses a lot of the choice that they can take. But when you look at schools, to know what options exist, it's kind of like lifting up the hood of a car or opening up the door and seeing what nifty things you have inside, because these are opportunities for your students. And we at UZ Easy, we really spend a lot of time talking about not only the names of the schools, but the opportunities that exist within. The fit major one, you hear fit a lot, and that's the word everybody talks about. Fit, you have a teenager, and your teenager is changing. So fit is going to change maybe by the hour, by the week, by the year. What universities want, and Ray touched upon this, is a student that feels the fit is not just in the major, but is in the school community, a place that they can academically thrive, they can socially thrive, and they can feel understood, they can feel safe, and they could feel that they have growth potential. So when they come home for winter break or spring break, they would love to brag. It's going to feel like a second home to them. And that's what we're about. We're about finding that match. We're finding that perfect place. Well, it's hard to say perfect, but a place that is challenging in the right way. And so a student does not feel like they start school and they struggle. The whole idea is they start feeling empowered from the get-go. And then they're mentored by faculty. They're supported by friends and residents, advisors in their dormitory. And they have such a launching point at that point.
Yeah, Fit also, particularly this year for the college applications, a lot of colleges and universities were asking specific questions to the applicant regarding why they wanted to come to X school. And they're really trying to find the fit. You know, why are you applying to University of Michigan or any other school? And so colleges really do want the answer to that. They're not just expecting, well, because you're the top school, et cetera. No, they want specifics. So that's something that's a trend happening, particularly I noticed for this year.
Differentiators are my favorite, hands down. These are the things that when I read applications at Carnegie Mellon that made me stop reading the application, leave my seat, go to talk to my peer and say, hey, check this out. So what does that mean? Differentiators could be that you're the computer science whiz at your school, but you also love to perform and act in theater. You love Broadway. You love physics, but you also build stage and set designs for the local plays at a middle school. You actually are found in multiple regions and areas of your own high school and in your own community. So there's not a list of saying these are the differentiators that make a difference. It's called, what do you do in your free time that you would be embarrassed if somebody saw you doing maybe? Or when nobody's looking, what are you doing? The stuff like that matters. And I would put matters in all caps. Those are the things that you would think that they're looking solely just at the math, the bio, the chem, the physics. But sometimes these clubs or organizations, nonprofit work, service work, has great value. And I can't emphasize that enough, because in applicant pools that Ray and I have read for Caltech and CMU, often the students read the same, the names on top of the transcripts change, but you feel like you read the same student because everybody's doing the same thing. So when you see somebody doing something different, kind of makes you turn your head a little bit. So those are the best parts of the job, because it's a student doing things out of passion and doing things out of interest rather than being coached into doing something that is told to them will make a difference. Ray, anything in addition to that?
No, I completely agree. Those are the things that stand out. People want to know, what is it will make by something like that. I shared with Chris, I said, one of the best applications I read was a young woman who applied to Caltech, got a summer job at a Taco Bell. For her, it was just a summer job. But then she realized that the other people working under this was their job. This is how they supported themselves and their family. And for her, it was an enlightening experience. So even things like that are something that are very important, may seem insignificant, but not at all.
Yeah, that's really asking your student, what are the things you want to try? I had students that loved wood carving. So one of my students was one of my favorites, carved silverware out of wood and donated it to local soup kitchens and missions, just because they wanted to give back. And they also had a skill of being a craftsman and doing some stuff around wood. It's just, you'd be amazed, I guess. And in this world we're moving into and shifting into, these types of things have great value. So do not lose track of them. And the last one we already kind of touched upon, which kind of goes along with, impacted majors, the application numbers are up. The moment you take off the restrictor plate that was test scores, for instance, that just means there's a longer line. It didn't change the number of spaces. And for some schools where students actually took a gap year or deferred their enrollment due to Singaporean service, or took just a year off or a semester off, some of those spaces got moved into this year's freshman class. So if anything, some of the classes got smaller. And that doesn't feel good, but the reality is that's what's happening. And as COVID continues, schools are reacting to how many seats do we have available, and they're also trying to react to the behaviors of a 17 and 18-year-old. So that being said, yes, there's a lot of things that are up in the air that both Ray and I are even learning about the process this year, where we feel like first-year counselors, because we are listening to our friends on the college side of the desk, and they've never gone through a pandemic before to actually make these decisions. So again, staying up to date and staying current is always on the top of our list. So CS applicants, expectations. Some of these might, be already understood. But I start with that bold statement. That's another vocabulary jargon word you're going to hear a lot. Context. Context. What does that mean? Context of your student's experience at their high school, not the high school up the road, not the high school where your friend's student attends. It's knowing your student in the high school that they attend and what's made available to them. So there's something called the school profile that's sent out to all schools that your student applies to. It gives us an idea on the college side, what is available to your student. Then the application tells me, what did your student self-select? And that's both the curriculum, that's the clubs, the leadership, what does honor roll look like? Where do the students matriculate? What's the highest level of math offered at your school? What are the AP, honors, IB, French Bac, A level? It gives us an idea about what is there and the challenge your student took. And the challenge is something we'll talk about a little bit later, but the appropriate challenge. No student is meant to take everything at the highest level. Stress cultures exist for reasons. Mental health is a huge initiative of mine to really keep my students balanced, so they feel that they can do things and they're not forced to do things that are out of their control. So again, it's always important to know your student's going to be read in the context of their school and their experience. So always start there. The expected strengths, core math and science. So biochem, physics, and calc. Math is going to be the driver to many computer science application decisions. Not saying that solo class. However, when the school profile is made available to the college representative, we will see if, for instance, the highest level is AP Calc AB or AP Calc BC or honors multivariable calc or linear algebra or discrete math. If we see a student has opted to not take potentially a higher level math, we find in terms of committee that was the challenge there. And we do this because we're not being hard on the student. We're trying to prepare them for our curriculum. So this has nothing to do with the student can or cannot. We just know that at CMU, our freshman computer science majors were taking more or less linear algebra courses. Now, the SAT math section is like trigonometry. Linear algebra and calc is a lot different. So we had to make sure that the students we are enrolling were ready to take on that curriculum. Now, so math, I would always hold for CS as, always keep that as where you want to grow the most. And if you're growing and it's still a struggle and you're falling in love with biology and chemistry or physics, I want you to know that's okay. That is okay, because we don't want the student to feel that they have to do that, because later you're going to find out computer science lives in a lot of different regions on campus. The origins of computer science is philosophy and the liberal arts, logic and computation, the thinking behind the machine has nothing to do. It's more theoretical, not practical. So, but taking biochem, physics, and calc will always serve you well, both in CS and engineering. Now, the next bullet point's interesting, right? I know when I read applications for 10 plus years, my eyes went right to the science classes. As soon as I was done with that, I wondered what else the student took along for the ride. Did they grow their foreign language every single year? Did they take literature, language classes, government, history classes, computer science courses, or arts? And there's a lot of love for the arts, that it's not that you have to give something up. It's all about, what are you complementing your math and science with? It's not, what are you replacing? I think replacing seems like it's happening more of, well, my school has 3 years of foreign language, so I'm going to stop there. But why? Because if you work for Google or Facebook or some of these companies that are global, there's going to be a lot of job opportunities. And it also shows that you're staying consistent in your academics and you're sustaining that actual level every single year. So students will have to make hard choices. At UC Easy, we help with those choices. We help listen to your student. We do not tell your student what to do, but we help get an understanding of, this is what I'm hearing from you. And based off of what I'm hearing, I think maybe your senior year biology seems like a better move than chemistry, because you keep telling me about bioinformatics, you keep telling me about pharmaceuticals, medicine. So these decisions we have in our day-to-day meetings. And it's really interesting. So it doesn't tell the student that they have to do everything. They have to do what they're interested in. And it's not even have to do, they should do. They should enroll in what they want to do and not feel the pressures of all this outside noise, even their friends, and sometimes even their parents. So that's why we help kind of be that mediator in between. Often I hear students need to do more than just experience computer science in high school. So some schools have intro to Java, they have computer science basic courses teaching them the code. Then you have AP Computer Science Principles, AP Computer Science A. Now, while those are great for exposure, if you're going to be applying to some top tier schools, and later we'll talk about really nowadays, all schools, they want to know where else you're going. Where else are you learning different languages? Because they want to see if you were very intentional going outside of the classroom and doing something where you're on Coursera and you're taking a class at a college level, learning about something, or the massive online curriculums, the MOOCs, community college classes, or even sampling classes online for free. And that does exist. Colleges are interested in, how did you get there? What made you even look that up? It's not that you have to, it's listening to your students saying that they want to, and then showing them the different ways that they can take full advantage of CS outside of just taking classes. That could also be helping middle school students with computer literacy. That could be helping tutor students in math, or tutor students in computer science, or lifting up women in computing, or diversity, approaching topics that are societal topics of inefficiencies and saying, I want to make a difference at my level. That's the stuff that jumps off the page. So it kind of goes into the last point of exploration and engagement. Where did you go? Like, if you go on Wikipedia to look up something, did you stop there or did you keep going? Like, where does that search take you? Where does that search take your student? And it can be messy. I actually encourage it to be messy. So computer science nowadays is different. It's not just coding. So it could be a lot of these different words that you're seeing here: automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, informatics, human computer interaction, computational majors, computational finance, computational biology, everything. I mean, computer science is woven into so many different areas. And also, computer science, the degree you receive is not the same based off where you go to school. How they actually give you that education depends on where computer science is housed, meaning that major. So for instance, just to kind of give you an idea of how many different places computer science can live on a campus, it could be located inside the College of Engineering. It could be located in the College of Mathematics, College of Computing, the School of Informatics, the Department of Computing and Information Science, the College of Letters, Science and Arts, College of Computer, Mathematical and Natural Sciences. Wow. That's a lot. So what I do is I live in the space. I want to know, is a Bachelor of Arts in Computing or is it a Bachelor of Science in Computing? Because some schools do more of the theoretical approach, the philosophy approach. So the BA, other schools do more of the BS, which is a little bit more the programming language, higher level math courses, more quantitative. So you're going to find that, wow, if it's in the math department, not only will I be taking more math courses, but it's going to be more quantitative. What if your student excels in statistics, computer science courses, but also loves something else? Then a BA might be better suited for your student. And there are excellent schools that have BAs in computer science that set a student up for a master's degree in computer science. But if you were not aware of all the different offerings and where it lives on the campus, it changes your student's experience. I promise you that, because they might not want to take more math. They might want to take some math, but more computer science programming courses. The other thing that I find interesting is not only what kind of classes you have to take, but the general education requirements. These are often called distribution requirements. if computer science lives on a college campus where it's in humanities, then your student's going to be taking language, history, and English courses as part of their 4-year degree program. Now, if it lives in another area of engineering, they might have a smaller subset of those courses, but the majority of their classes might be more quantitative. So CS, when you look it up at different schools, you will find that it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more submerged that you're like, wow, so this is how they're going to offer me this.
Okay, hi. Just wanted to talk a little bit, as we mentioned before in the first slide, trends. What is it about engineering? Is it changing? Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different kinds of engineering. So just briefly, just going over this particular slide. Yes, there are 4 branches of engineering, chemical, civil, electrical, and mechanical. And from there, you can go into biomedical, you can go into software, you can go into game. There are so many different kinds of engineering that students can explore. Ocean engineering, you can go to the minutest particles or to the largest, building bridges and buildings. And, I live here in Southern California. I think last week we had a little earthquake. And so a big part of engineering here in Los Angeles is having quake safety buildings, all the time. New buildings have to come up, they have to meet a certain standard. So we need engineers for that, looking at the soil, looking at the strength of foundations, looking at, windows and anything like that. So, engineering is around, will be around here for a long time. And just like computer science, you really need to build your academic skills on math, physics, and chemistry. Some schools, like where I worked at Caltech, there was a core curriculum. And regardless of whether or not you were going to study biology, whatever your major was, you were required to take a core which included math, physics, and chemistry. So that is going to be those are the fundamental subjects in high school. So it will be very important. And going just piggybacking on what Chris has been saying is that's what we help you at the UC Easy. Okay, what is offered at your school? What are the best classes for you to take so that you will be prepared in your senior year to apply to X colleges? We can help you craft the list based on what you would like to study and how far along you have gone in the science curriculum offered at your high school. Same thing, get experience through internships and hands-on research in an area of interest. Whether, it's difficult sometimes for a high school student to get an internship, and particularly this past year, very few, I don't know if getting an internship was possible this past year, but I encourage students to take a community college class. And it doesn't necessarily have to be academic. It could be something that you might in architecture. If that's something that you really enjoy doing, then go for it. But just try and find things that you're interested in, or take a course in oceanography if you're interested in looking at engineering, underneath the water, or anything like that. So it's always important. Try and take the most rigorous math classes and science classes that are offered at your school. Chris was mentioning the school profile. Your high school will send a profile along with your student's application. And that was something that I always looked at. Well, if they want to come to Caltech, have they taken the rigorous courses, or have they taken, at their high school, if they do offer AP, have they taken AP level? My high school that I work at offers IB. So, did they take IB math? Did they take HL? Did they take physics HL? What kind of courses that will best prepare them for the curriculum that is offered at that school? And then investigate different kinds of disciplines through different kinds of opportunities: robotics, math and science competitions, Olympiads, hands-on engineering experiences. There's a great program here in California called Cosmos. It's sponsored by the University of California. And it's offered at 4 campuses, and students can choose a particular area of interest that they would like to focus on. and it's a really good program. When I was working at Caltech, actually, I would go to the college day that was offered by Cosmos because, you know, these were the kids that we really liked to see, because they were really had an interest in the sciences and in whatever field it was. And if you can find a mentor, that's great. You know, someone not necessarily at a college campus, but you know, someone who's doing research at a local, it could be a local company, you know, that's maybe doing some kind of projects that you'd like to do. You know, they own a business, or they go out and you know, take soil samples, or they're a local architectural firm. You know, it doesn't have to be this big company, you know, working with Elon Musk or anything like that, but any kind of experience you can get that will further your interest, I think is great. Also, I also want to put a plug in for doing things outside of the box. At my high school, for example, we offer a class called technical theater. And a class like that would be great for a kid interested in engineering, because you're going to start building sets and doing lighting and stuff like that. And you can use your expertise to help make the production better. You know, you never know. So anything like that is also good to explore and get involved with. And so what can engineering look like in college? Well, you know, at a school like where I was at Caltech, it's you know, it's very math, physics, chemistry focused. You know, you are going to take a core based on your major, but like a school like at Caltech or MIT, everyone is going to take a particular core curriculum. If you go to the University of Washington, they don't have a core that everyone takes who's going to study engineering or computer science, but each major will require particular classes. And so, like example, if you go to the University of Washington, everyone is required to take calculus. Everyone's required to take physics. Everyone is required to take chemistry. Those are the three subjects. When I was helping students look at the different majors at the University of Washington, yeah, those were something that they all had in common. Some schools like MIT requires their applicants to take biology. And do not, and again, I want to jump on the bandwagon that Chris was talking about, do not discount the humanities and social science classes. You really need those soft skills, the reading, the writing, the presentation skills. In fact, at Caltech, we required 2 specific letters of recommendation, one from a math or science teacher, the other one from a humanities or social science teacher. And they still require that today. Okay, at that school, 25% of the core curriculum is in humanities and social science. That's how important they know that these courses are. You know, so continue with a foreign language, take more history, take theater, you know, take music, you know, or maybe a language that you know, is not spoken very widely, like Latin. I told Chris I loved kids who studied Latin, and I really like kids who did the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. You know, if it's offered at your school, take a look at it. I think it's a really good way to step out and look at different subjects.
So this slide right here, a lot of different logos right here. And I always tell my my students' parents, these are not the same schools that maybe you applied to in 2021. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, and it's not just the marketing of the acceptance rate, but there is a hyper focus at certain institutions like MIT, Caltech, CMU. And that hyper focus sometimes has us really only focusing on certain schools. But what's happening is, because those schools have limited space, the schools that used to be 70% acceptance rates are now teetering into 50s, 40s, and 30s. So seeing schools that are polytechnic universities like Worcester Polytechnic Institute, Rose-Hulman Institute, you're looking at Rochester Institute of Technology. The thing about these schools is they're fantastic, and they should be on college lists. And moving forward, keeping a broad approach to applying to CS and STEM, I feel is going to be needed because that's where the marketplace is. When you look at computer science students getting jobs and employers coming to campus, San Jose State University every single year has more students who are working in CS than even Stanford and MIT. That's San Jose State University. And why? Location, location, location. So different things that are around cities or like areas in the Silicon Valley or in LA, as your students look at schools, it's always great to understand that there's a lot of great schools that are not just the ones that maybe we always look at, because what's happening that I love, these other schools like Colorado, Ohio State, Stevens Institute, Tufts, you're seeing here, they know that everybody maybe at Tufts is applying to Harvard. So Tufts says, well, we're going to have a different approach. Maybe we're going to lead with data science. You saw during the pandemic, it continues to go, how much you saw Tufts scientists and data that you would see that was being produced from Tufts and University of Washington. So suddenly these schools that have always been amazing are now being talked about more. But I think the surprise is just because it's a large public university, it could actually be more competitive to get into computer science and engineering than it would be to apply to an Ivy League school. That's a lot. University of Washington, to be an out-of-state student, under 2% acceptance rate to computer science, under 2%. So what we do at UC Easy is we understand this, we know this. So we work with our students to, again, build lists that they love everybody on their list, but they understand what's going on at each one of the institutions, because computer science is an amazing field and so is engineering, but you can do it in so many different ways in so many different places. And while the student may think that they want to go to this school, when they find out more about the other schools, it might have been the best place for them to be. Ray, any additions on the schools there?
Yeah, there's some outstanding schools. For example, Chris Benson Stevens Institute. I love Stevens Institute of Technology. I had the opportunity to go there a few years ago, and I was just blown away by the kinds of programs and the students especially. You know, one of the things I always do when I visit a college campus is make sure and talk to students. Do you like the school where you're at? That's a very legitimate question. And guess what? Students are very honest. They'll tell you. And they love it at Stevens. You know, it's directly across the Hudson River from New York City. So what a great location for computer science and engineering. I mean, you just can't beat it. University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign is now very selective, very selective. When I started in college counseling 10 years ago, you could put it on the list. And, you know, if you had a 3.5, you'd be getting in, not anymore. You know, so it's all about crafting, and that's what we will help your son or daughter do, is craft the list. Okay, you have this school, then we need to look at some other schools. You know, we have to put a balanced list, and we will make sure that the balance will be there, and that regardless, you know, your son or daughter will get an amazing education, will have great opportunities to study computer science or engineering.
Guys, that was amazing. Again, I hope you all learned as much as I have a feeling you learned. We are going to just spend about 2 minutes talking about our approach. My passion, of course, is for the 8, 9, and 10 program. That is where my home is and where I reside. Chris and Ray and our other specialists on our STEM team or on our team are also passionate about these grade levels, because this is where the student development and foundation is built. So our program of career pathways, specifically with computer science, engineering, and pre-med, which we'll have one later, is about holistic development of students. So Chris, Ray, when you guys were both talking about the expectations of these admissions, college admissions, whether that's Iowa, whether that's MIT or CMU or Caltech, the idea is to develop a holistically and well-rounded student. Our mission and job in the 8, 9, and 10 is really to take these students' development, and with our specialists, they come in and provide mentorship to support student development, so they are able to find authenticity. They're able to identify connections between that AP US history class and that AP Calc BC class that they're taking, and find movement towards what solutions they're interested in finding. And again, I think the best thing about these guys on our team is that we are continually on top of the trends to inform decisions for students, not just as 11th and 12th graders. Gosh, that's almost to the point where there's nothing we could do at that point, but informing decisions for those younger grades as well. So I'm going to quickly move to our approach for any 11th graders that are here today. Chris, will you just talk a little bit about kind of our approach with 11th grade students? And by the way, this is our direct admit program. So for 11th graders, this is the grade level that you could directly admit to work with specialists on our team like Chris and Ray.
Yeah, sure. No problem. 11th grade is when things, I feel like that switch hits in your student's mind of, wow, like half of high school's over. I'm in my hardest curriculum in terms of my classes, in terms of my IB or AP or college prep courses. The courses are getting harder, more difficult. Parents are asking more questions, and the student is sitting there with a lot of decisions to make. So we know month by month kind of topics that we cover with our students that are applicable to that time. We don't try to solve everything in one meeting. We understand the anxieties are high, but we chose this field for a reason because we want to really help mitigate that. So we do cover the trends and we cover deadlines. We go over trends right now, testing, for instance. We talk about the landscape, what that looks like, what that's going to matter for that student. We work with crafting the college list. But before we do that, we have to hear from your student. So we need to know what they're looking for in a college, in a community. So again, a lot of back and forth conversation, open dialogue. The news that we give is not always easy. It can be direct, but always honest. And we say that because we know that this process, there's emotions. And this process, it's hard to prepare for rejection when a process has rejection as part of it. So we want the students to know that, we're here. We're here to hear them out. And we're here to also let them know about if we find that there's anything that we consider the risk tolerance is high for that student, because we want your student to be the best. We want your student to feel supported just as much as you do. But we also know the realities are that selectivity is very real for these majors and that they're going to do great. It's just when you have a junior versus, say, a April senior, it's like two different people in your household. I promise you that. The specialization is where we're trying to then grab onto something because of things that they have done. So they're, again, being an informed applicant of when they apply to an institution. What are they applying to? Where is it located? Why did your student feel like it's a good fit for them? What activities they do in and around that subject that has sparked that interest?
Thank you very much. So we have like 1 second to cover all of this. So our programs, if you were sitting here with an 8th, 9th, or 10th grader, your starting place is college bound. If you are really interested in one of these career pathways, which you heard so much about today, and I hope you feel a combination of, I need to take action if I'm interested in computer science and engineering, seriously interested in it. So if you're an 8th, 9th, and 10th grader, you start with college bound. We combine you with the essay writing as well, because without essay writing, you have zero chance of getting into a competitive major like computer science and engineering. And that equals our career pathway. So really looking for specific 8th, 9th, and 10th grade students who are so sure and interested in this specific career pathway. We combine in that mentorship in the career pathway. You are looking at definitely having to have a conversation with us first. It is an evaluation process. The evaluation is done by experts like Chris Sharp and Ray Prado for each of those pathways. If you are sitting here as an 11th grader, good goodness gracious, if you are not feeling the urge to make a movement in some direction, you have probably missed something, and maybe we're hiding your head in the sand, which is a wonderful place to be, but definitely not during application season. If you are an 11th grader now, this is the comprehensive cost of the comprehensive pathway for our 11th and 12th grade students. There's the cost listed there. This is not specific to a pathway like joining in with Chris Sharp and Ray Prado. That's of course an additional fee. And I cannot leave without saying the essay writing program that starts in 9th grade is absolutely essential to what we're talking about, the evaluation process, the being involved in things that you're passionate about. If you heard Ray and Chris say, gosh, what else do you want outside of math and science? That doesn't happen naturally. And the essay writing program is part of our soft skills development. We're not just working on technical writing skills in 9th and 10th. We're working on that full on development of being able to communicate, written communication, as well as verbal. So if you are sitting here, you're feeling like, gosh, I need to make a move, I would urge you to take the next step in taking our realistic assessment. This is actually done all through Ray Prado, no matter the major that you're interested in, realistic assessment of where you currently are, whether that's in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade. Look at your chances of being admitted to whether that's a top tier school like CMU, Caltech, MIT, or just wanting to gauge where your interests lie. I also feel like this is a great way to help students identify weaknesses. So if you're taking this information and saying, gosh, I could do this all on my own, I would say 99% of students cannot. Even at elite private high schools that Chris and Ray work at, we do not have enough time to work one-on-one with students at our school sites. And if your student is going to a public high school, you are even more at a disadvantage. So this is the first step to really being able to engage with our experts. And again, I'm so sorry I rushed through everything. To find more information about the assessment, you would go to uceasy.com/courses, and it's called a realistic assessment. If you are so excited about what you heard and just want more information, whether that's about our College Bound program for 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, for your 11th grader who you need help right away, just email us at info@uceasy.com. So I'm going to quickly look through some of our Q&A, and I am going to find the best. So if you think you have a really great general question for everyone to benefit from, please type it in now. I'm going to go through quickly. So let me just, generally speaking, there's a lot of specific questions about specific courses as differentiators. So do you take multivariable versus IB math, or an AP class in a STEM area, or maybe in a social science? And let's just keep this really general, but how would you guys answer that question?
I think it's all going to be determined by what is offered at your school. I would not go out of my way if, for example, if your high school offers BC calculus and you think, oh, I need to take, no, you don't. You have satisfied the requirements at even the top schools. So let's say you complete that as a junior BC calculus, great. Then what else does your school offer? AP stats? Does it offer, maybe it does offer a college level math, great. But it's not necessary to go out of your way at the hindrance of your other high school courses. Don't jeopardize that. Don't add something additional because you think it's going to give you an advantage. Stick with what you have, take advantage of what your school offers, and go from there. Same thing for, there's no real difference is differential versus high HL math. Not really. If you're completing the IB diploma curriculum, you're going to have that IB diploma, wonderful. But again, don't go out of your way, oh, I have to take multivariate. No, the IB diploma itself is something that's really impressive in a college admissions process.
Thank you. Last question that I'm going to just address. How does the test optional approach or the cancellation of SAT in general impact the overall application process? I think looking at the three of us that have been working and doing this for 22, 16, and 14 years, I have never seen a year like this, and I hope to God that we never see another year like this. But I want to speak to our families that often get stuck with a specific either SAT score or GPA. You are looking at formula-based admissions, and the universities are not trending that way. So if you are stuck on an SAT score, a GPA, the amount of AP courses you're taking, you are getting it all wrong. And that is a huge disadvantage for your child and college admissions. Huge, not just college admissions, but personal growth and development. So if we cannot get on to the trends, we will be missing the boat. So unless you have a 9-year-old like myself and you have time to make that adjustment, you don't though. You're here because you're an 8th, 9th, and 10th and 11th grader in your home. Do us all a favor, change and understand that the trends are moving away from these formula-based admissions, especially in computer science, engineering, and other STEM majors. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with, is to respect all of your time. Again, we are so thrilled to have had an hour with you guys on Sunday, a beautiful sunny day. So thank you again. And again, I'm just gonna leave with our last way to contact us. Again, thank you guys for being here, and that is it.